Here's an opening song we wrote just for you. All right, Chelsea, hit it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
How are you?
Very well and thank you.
Very well and thank you.
Clap your hands.
Clap your hands.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
¿Cómo estás?
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias.
Muy bien,
gracias.
Vamos a aplaudir.
Vamos a aplaudir. It's time for stories.
Time for stories.
I can't wait.
I can't wait.
Let's all sit and listen.
Let's all sit and listen.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Go!
Hey there. My book for you today is called The Mightiest. Let's see what happens. Deep in the quiet woods, there was a golden crown sitting on a rock. Now one day, 3 animals discovered the crown. "Finders keepers," yelled the bear. "That's mine." "No way," said the elephant. "I saw it first." "Wait, guys," said the lion. "Something's written on the rock. It says, 'For the mightiest.'" "Well then," said the lion, grabbing the crown, "that's obviously mine." "No, it's not," said the bear. "I'm the mightiest." "Step aside," said the elephant, "and give me my crown." On and on the animals argued. Suddenly, off in the distance, the lion saw a tiny old woman walking toward them. "Shh, listen. Let's settle this once and for all. Each of us will try to scare that little old woman, and whoever scares her the most will win the crown." "Ooh, that sounds fair," the others agreed. So they hid behind the bushes, and they waited anxiously for the tiny old woman to come near. And when she finally reached the bushes, the lion jumped up. "Roar!" "Oh my," cried the tiny old woman, "you scared the daylights out of me." Then the bear jumped up. "Growl!" "Oh my," said the tiny old woman, "you scared the daylights out of me." Then finally it was the elephant's turn. He stuck his head up and went, "Brrrr!" "Oh my," cried the tiny old woman, "you scared the daylights out of me." There was no way of knowing who had scared the tiny old woman the most. "My roar made her jump," said the lion. "My growl had her shaking in her boots," said the bear. "My brrrr blew her away," said the elephant. They were so busy arguing, they didn't notice that they had company. "Who is it?" Suddenly, an enormous giant towered over them. "Well, roar, growl, and brew to you," he said. "I happen to be the biggest, the baddest, and the mightiest giant in the world. Now, get me that crown." With the crown on his head, the giant scooped up those animals. "To prove that I'm the mightiest, I'm going to go throw you off the cliff." "Help! Somebody help!" wailed the animals. But who could help them now? Just then, a high voice screeched, "George!" The giant jumped up in the air. He dropped the 3 animals and he fell to the ground. There, standing in front of the biggest, the baddest, and the mightiest giant in the world was none other than the tiny old woman. She was scaring the daylights out of him. "George! Now, how many times have I told you not to pick on poor little helpless creatures?" "Oh, lots of time, Mama. I won't do it again. Honest, Mama, I promise." "Well, good, George. I'm glad to hear that." The animals couldn't believe their eyes. They snatched the crown away from the giant and presented it to the tiny old lady. "Surely and positive," said the lion. "Without a doubt," said the bear. "This belongs to you, ma'am."
Oh my, cried the tiny old woman, how flattering. But I don't really need that. Let's just put it back where you found it. Put it back? They asked her. Yes, I have my little hat, and that's enough for me. So George and the animals looked at her with admiration. The Mightiest didn't need a crown after all. And as soon as they left the woods became quiet again. The golden crown sat peacefully on its rock, just like before, but not for long. Thank you. The little old lady who was not scared of anything. Once upon a time, there was a little old lady who lived out in the country. She had a big vegetable garden where she grew peas and cantaloupe and broccoli and corn. Well, one day it was early fall and she decided to make a big pot of soup. But she lacked the herbs and spices that she needed to make it taste good. She had the vegetables. So she gathered up her basket and went into the woods. After a while, she had gathered up all her spices, and as she was coming back, there in the middle of a path were two big shoes. And the shoes looked at her and the shoes went, stop, stop. And the little old lady went, ah! And then she said, I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of anything. And down the path she went, but behind her she could hear those shoes going, stop, stop. Well, a little while later she was going down, and there, hanging upside down from a tree, was a pair of pants. And the little old lady went, huh! And the pants went, wiggle, 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 wiggle. And the little old lady went, huh! I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of anything. And down the path she went, but behind her she could hear those pants going, wiggle, 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 and the shoes going, stop, 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 stop. Well, a little while later, as she was looking over her shoulder to see what those pants and shoes were doing, she came around the corner of the path and there was a shirt, just a shirt, hanging in the middle of the path. And the shirt went, shake, 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 shake. And the little old lady went, ah! She said, I'm not scared of you, shirt. I'm not scared of anything. And down the path she went, closer to her home. But behind her, she could hear that shirt going shake, 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 and the pants going wiggle, 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 and the shoes going stomp, 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 stomp. So she picked up her pace a little bit faster, and she was getting close to her house when all of a sudden she heard something. And she looked up, and there, hiding behind the rock, were two hands, just hands. And they went, and the lady went, ah! And she said, I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of anything. And down the path she went, but behind her she could hear those hands going, shirt going shake, 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 wiggle, 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 stomp, 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 stomp. So she was getting real close to her house. And she was almost at her house when floating down from the sky came a hat. And the hat went nod, nod, nod. And the little old lady went, I'm not scared of you, hat. I'm not scared of anything. And she went closer to a house, but behind her she could hear that hat going nod, 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 clap, 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 shake, shake, wiggle, wiggle, stomp, stomp, stomp. And she was just about at her house when come rolling out was a pumpkin. And the pumpkin stopped right in front of the house, blocking her path. And she looked at the pumpkin, and the pumpkin went, boom! And the little old lady went, ah! And she ran inside her house, opened up the door, closed the door, locked it, put the bolt over, went and got a big piece of furniture and put it in front of the door. And she went and sat down on the fire. And she was rocking back and forth. Then all of a sudden she heard a knock, knock, knock at the door. So she grabbed a chair, put it up next to the piece of furniture, climbed on top of it, opened up the window, and there was the pumpkin. And the pumpkin went, boom! But the lady was safe inside her house, and she said, I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of anything. And the pumpkin got a real sad look on his face, and he said, "Well, if we can't scare you, what do we want to do?" And the little old lady thought about it for a little while, and then she leaned forward and she whispered into his ear. And then she closed the window and the door, got down off the chair, moved the chair back underneath the table, and went down and sat in front of the fire and fell asleep and slept all night long. Well, when she went outside the next morning, out in the cornfield, she looked up, and there was the pair of shoes, the pants, the shirt, the hands, the hat, and the pumpkin. And it had turned into a you-know-what who could scare away all the caw crows that came to get the corn. And that is the story of the little old lady who was not scared of anything. The end.
I am the ugly pumpkin, as you can plainly see. Of 100,000 pumpkins, none are quite like me. Since early in October, I've been waiting to get picked, but each time things start looking up, I end up getting tricked. A skeleton came for pumpkins one bright and crispy day. I asked if I could get a ride. He laughed and said, "No way!" And when I said, "It's getting late and I don't have a home," he rolled his eye and said goodbye and left me all alone. So I walked into November, where I happened on some trees. I asked if I could stay a while, and this time I said please. The trees all started smiling, and then one finally spoke. "Take off your boots and spread your roots." Another cruel joke. "I am the ugly pumpkin," I shouted to the sky. And then it started raining, so I began to cry. I took shelter in a garden that was overrun with squash. I noticed something very odd, and then I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a squash. At last it was Thanksgiving, and I found where I fit in. Now you know my story, so let the feast begin.
Thank y'all for joining us today. We appreciate it. You can hit pause for a second and go get a t-shirt or a towel or something, because I think you're going to enjoy this last closing number. Are you ready, Chelsea?
I'm ready, Robert.
All right, let's do this.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. Stomp, stomp. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. Stomp, stomp. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet.
If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray.
Hooray!
If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray.
Hooray!
If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray.
Hooray!
If you're happy and you know it, do all three.
Clap, clap.
Stomp, stomp.
Hooray!
If you're happy and you know it, do all three. Clap, clap. Stomp, stomp.
Hooray!
If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, do all three. Clap, clap. Stomp, stomp.
Hooray!